It's Tuesday. That's right. Tuesday's a good day. It's also payday for many people. Why is Tuesday the payday? Why isn't Monday the payday? We should start weeks strong with good information, like money in the bank. Anyway, hope you're doing well. Hope your Tuesday is going the way it should go, just safely. We're going to be talking about traffic safety, traffic law, and police stuff. Why? Because this is Ask a Traffic Cop, that show on the internet that allows you to ask questions of me, a traffic cop. My name is Shapiro. I work for the Toronto Police Service at Traffic Services, and I like traffic stuff and things. I'm not here by accident, or I am here by accident. If you don't know the story of how I ended up becoming the guy in front of the camera talking to you, I was in the motor squad. That's right, I was a motorcycle officer out on patrol doing collision investigations and Highway Traffic Act enforcement when one day someone decided to pull out without knowing what was on the other side of the vehicle that they pulled out in front of, and kaboom skis, I was involved in a collision. As a result, I was injured and started looking for meaningful work within the service, because I signed up to be a cop, want to be a cop, I like being a cop, I want to help people. I have to clean my glasses, so as I tell you the story, I'm going to polish the lenses. It's polishing the lenses. Anyway, I started doing other stuff and things. I did things like, I didn't actually alphabetize parking tickets. That was when I was a court officer. But I did start doing other things, and I started supporting the media relations office here at Traffic Services. When one thing led to another, we started producing content on other platforms, doing YouTube stuff and creating video. Prior to that, we'd really been producing a lot of stills, and now we almost entirely produce video content, which is pretty wild to have transitioned from one to the next. In any case, almost finished cleaning my glasses, I one day became a guy in front of the camera instead of the guy behind the camera, and that was a couple years ago, and we haven't looked back. I am having a great deal of fun being the guy who is here to help you, but I am the guy who's here to help you. So if you've got questions, I have answers most of the time. Now, if you're watching, it's probably going to be on one of these platforms, because we're on all of them right now. Whatever one is best for you, that's the one you should be using. But TikTok, YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Kick, and of course, the platform formerly known as Twitter, now referred to as X, or what sounds does X make if it was by itself? Yeah. Anyway, if you want to ask questions and you're an X, you're out of luck unless you switch over to YouTube. You can do that by going to youtube.trafficcop.ca. Takes you right to our page, or go to trafficcop.ca and go through my link tree. It will give you all sorts of great options for you to choose. YouTube seems to be a really solid one for making sure your questions get seen. But you know what? They all work really, really well. Well, sort of. Instagram, I'm looking at you. You're on a separate camera. You're sort of, because Instagram, I don't understand Instagram. I don't understand why Instagram exists anymore. It doesn't want to work with us. The new features of the RTMP streaming, if you're listening at Mr. Instagram, they don't work. We don't have access, so we can't give you the wide format show, which means you get this vertical video on its own phone. And we occasionally remember to look over to you and ask questions or answer your questions. If you want to make sure that you're in the queue to get your questions answered, I suggest you also jump over to the magical, the mystical, the other one. Okay, let's see. So the connection to TikTok doesn't seem to be working. That stinks. I don't have a moderator today. We'll do our very best. I'm going to just check to make sure everything's typed in and looking good. Streaming seems working. It says it's working. It says username's there. But alas, it doesn't look like questions are coming through because I see drive-through. Is it drive-through dad? Wants to know if someone who is colorblind can be a police officer. Sadly, no. You must have normal color acuity, I think is the wording they use, and you have to actually be able to see colors differentiate. I think it's pretty important. Color blindness means you can't differentiate between red and green, if I'm not mistaken. You got to be able to do that. And I don't know how to pronounce your username, but hi to you. I'm sad that's not working. Okay. For the last little while, we've been able to see TikTok chat on the screen, and we can't actually see it today. Let's get into stuff and things, but before we'll do greetings and salutations because Akela has no meeting today. He has a quote of the day that I'll flag for later, and Stephen Bell says, hi, good morning. My appointment is done. Welcome to the show, Stephen. Tim Shallow, who is coming through with a good morning. Good morning to you too, sir. And Sean Chen, a talented young photographer who Must have a spare right now to be able to watch the show. But happy Tuesday to you too, Sean. You'll see Sean's work coming through in a lot of our Twitter posts and Instagram and Facebook posts because he's provided us with some great photos of police cars around the city, specifically Toronto police cars. Let's see here. We've got David Stark on LinkedIn. He says that the beard is coming in nice. Let's see here. Instagram is making things difficult always. Come to LinkedIn. It's great. Well, LinkedIn is happening. We're on LinkedIn. It is quite magical. Sound is a little low. Really? Interesting. I don't know why that is. Is it still? Was it the settings are the same. I don't want to mess with stuff, but if it's I can pop it up a little bit, but I don't want to try. If anyone's watching who thinks the sound is now perfect, let me know. If it is still no bueno, let me know that too. All right, let's get into let's have a quick look and see if things are coming in. Caleb wants to know about tinting taillights. We'll talk about that in just a moment. All right, let's talk about Vision Zero enforcement team before we go too deep into the weeds. And they are, in case you didn't know, a magical group of officers. They are dedicated to changing driver behavior one ticket at a time. They do that by focusing on the big four, which are speeding, aggressive driving, distracted driving, and impaired driving. And they do a pretty darn good job of it. I mean that they write a lot of tickets. That means that they find a lot of people who are violating laws, making the roads less safe for everyone else. Today, they're going to be focused on that Vision Zero priority in the neighborhoods of 22 Division and 55 Division, neighborhoods like Etobicoke, West Mall, Queensway, the Beaches, Riverdale, Danforth, East York, neighborhoods where real people live, work, and play and deserve to be safe. So we announce where we're going to be every day. And if you'd like to know where they are, you should probably be following our Twitter, our Facebook, or our Instagram page, because we put those posts up early in the morning. In fact, Twitter gets it at 6 a.m. All right, we've got some confirmations that audio is good now. I did pump it up just a little bit. Don't know why the internet gods are not smiling upon our audio today, but if it is, well, we're good now. Mark the tech guy says so. Let's see here. Stephen Bell wants to know if there's a fine for stepping on my wife's foot. I guess it depends on who's doing the stepping. If you're stepping on your wife's foot, definitely there is a marital fine there. You're going to be paying for it forever. Brad says, there's a lot of myths about police officer having a ticket quota. Can you explain the myth of quota versus officers having a job that includes writing traffic tickets? Well, you really have hit the nail on the head when it comes to the way it works, at least in the Toronto Police Service and every police service that I'm aware of. There's no quota. There's no, you must do X number of ticket writing a day or you're going to get in trouble, because that's what a quota is. You have to hit those targets to get a free toaster or whatever the bonus is, and that's simply not the case. What we are police officers expected to do our job every day, which means that sometimes we write tickets and sometimes we investigate collisions and sometimes we make arrests. Sometimes we do all of those things, and it really depends on how the adventure goes. And I say adventure because our job is unique. We know what time we have to show up for work. Sometimes we're called in early, but generally, we decline that call. Generally speaking, we are told what time to show up, and we never know what time we're going to go home, and we don't know what we're going to be doing that day. It could change every single day. Just never know. And that's part of what makes it so cool. But yeah, one of the comparisons about talking about one of our duties, or one of the ways of really giving you an idea of what we do, if I go out and I'm on general patrol and I see something, I do something. If I don't see something, I can't do anything because I didn't see it. We have to witness those things for collision. I mean, well, for not for collisions, but for HTA offenses. And on some days, I might see a lot of things, and I might have the time to deal with those. Sometimes you open up a can of something, and your day changes. You pull someone over for a headlight out, and you end up arresting them for firearms and warrants. Like, you never know where your day's going to go. Sergeant Kraft, good morning to you, sir. He used to be in this office. In fact, this whole TikTok adventure started when he was my boss, and now he is elsewhere. But we miss him. He's doing good stuff elsewhere. Sad for all the people who are jumping in on TikTok right now. The link to TikTok is not working, so we can't actually see your messages. So it means I have to manually look over and see what you're saying, and I will do my very best. Good morning to Emma, who says good morning, and Art of Ka. No, it's Artist of Ka. And that is, can I drive my friend's car? Well, if you're a licensed driver and the vehicle is insured, then yes, you actually can. Now, there are some stipulations in that, like the perspective of a police officer is that yes, you're licensed, you can legally drive, and then there is the issue of, well, what if the vehicle is insured, but they have a condition of no one being under the age of 21 driving or 25 driving? That's an issue between the insurance company and the customer, who is the owner of the vehicle, not you. I wouldn't charge you for not being able to drive that vehicle because of licensing conditions, but the owner, in the event of a collision, could have some difficulty getting coverage if they had broken some rules. Let's see here. Max Q has a question. I'm going to be cutting and pasting as best I can. If you want to avoid waiting for me to cut and paste and get to your question and reduce the risk of being lost in the mix, you may want to go over to YouTube, because on YouTube, you can actually directly message and I can put it on screen without any issues. Let's see here. Max wants to know, why do some people use left and right signal to go straight in a roundabout? Very confusing. Well, you can't actually go straight in a roundabout. It's a roundabout. There is an entry point and there is an exit. And when you are exiting, you are not going straight. You are turning. When you're entering, however, you are going straight. So you don't need to signal when you enter, but you do need to signal on your exit. Shouldn't be that confusing. Hope that this solves the conundrum or question that you're having. But yeah, you need to signal your exit. And not many people do, at least not where I am, and that causes some confusion because you never know whether or not you're playing chicken with your life. All right. Let's see. Oh, Caleb answered that one. Very cool. Dermaglow has a question. Let me cut and paste Dermaglow's question. Copy. Oh, and Stephen Bell says, there was ice this morning. I had to clear off in London, Ontario. I had frost on my window, but I didn't have ice. Ice would be a problem. I'm not ready for ice. Dermaglow says, hi, I was going 120 on the highway and I regret it, but it was by accident. What should I do? Did you get a ticket for going 120? If you were going 120, you're guilty of going 120, which is speeding. If you were stopped and given a charge, I don't know how you would defend what you were actually doing. By accident, an oopsie-doo is not a defense. There is no oopsie-doo defense in law. Now, is it possible that you could go speak to a prosecutor and there is a potential that they would, cut you a break, reduce your fine, give you a deal, a plea bargain? Yeah, that's always an option. And if you'd like more information, I said I was going to do it yesterday. I didn't do it yesterday. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do it right now. Let's see here. We have, it is the POA guide for defendants. Let me find it here. Guide for defendants, provincial court cases. Okay. So I'm going to copy this. What I'm doing, for the folks who are going, what is he doing? I'm actually updating my link tree right now. I have a useful links page at link. I'm going to put this down at the bottom, unless I already put it down, and then I'm just super man. Let's see if I have this twice. Either way, it deserves to be in the useful links page. So if you go to trafficop.ca, you will be able to find it. I'm going to be really disappointed if I already did this, and I'm doing it for the second time. Let's see whether I'm duplicating my work. All right. It's updating. Hey, if you're just watching for the first time, you don't know who I am. My name is Sean Shapiro. I'm a police officer with the Toronto Police. I did have it. Oh, no, I didn't have it. Let's get wrong page. I work for the Toronto Police Service, and I talk about traffic safety, traffic law, police stuff. This is a show that is all about you. It is a show that allows you to ask questions of the police. All right. I've got now also I have friends who join the show on occasion. And today I am told, although you never know what can happen, today we are possibly maybe going to be joined by Brian Max. Brian is a journalist, podcaster, radio host, race car driver, race team owner, and my friend. So he will very likely be joining us around 10:30. Boom, here we go. I put it in. It's in. If you go to trafficcop.ca, you will now see it, the guide for defendants. Ryan, you haven't been here in a while. Ryan's coming in through Facebook and has this to say. I recently observed a cop car dangerously tailgating another vehicle while speeding in the HOV lane on the 403. As he approached his exit, he swerved across 3 lanes of traffic at the last moment while performing these dangerous stunts. The cop chose not to use his lights or siren. Under what conditions are police required to use their lights and sirens? Okay, so really the question is, you made an observation of a police officer exceeding the posted speed limit, made some maneuvers, but the ultimate question is, when do police have to use their lights and sirens? The only time under law that it is required is when going through a signalized intersection that is displaying a red signal to them, at which point they have to come to a complete stop, have their entire emergency equipment on, being their lights and siren, until they proceed to the other side of the intersection, at which point they can turn it off again. It is actually safer for police not to use their lights and sirens in most cases because people do the darndest things. They tend to slam on their brakes and not be in the place they're expected to be for us to get to where we're going safely. So very often, speeding without our lights and sirens on is how we get to where we're going to help other people in the fastest, most efficient, and safest way possible. But it's a good question. My coworker saw Aaron on the street a few days ago. Aaron was not on social media for 3 months, but is back in the business, and it is once again spending less time on the road. She had gone back 3 months full-time on the road, and now is back after her break, so we're glad to have her. But I will let her know that she's been cited. You should let her know on her, well, she doesn't have YouTube, but on her Twitter or on her Instagram, or also on the, what else does she use? TikTok. But I'm guessing you don't have TikTok. I'm just assuming. Let's see here. Chase has a question. And I need to open up Word. Here we go. Stand by. I'm just putting some questions in from TikTok so I can read them without missing them, because that's what I do. I don't want to miss them. All right. What if instead of flashing your high beams, could someone turn their headlights on and off to warn about police and not get any potential charges? Having your headlights off is improper headlights. Flashing your high beams is fail to use lower beam. They're both against the law. But why on earth is anyone notifying anybody else about police up ahead? That is just about promoting unsafe motoring. Because when you tell people that there's police up ahead so they can stop speeding temporarily, you are feeding the machine that says it's okay to break the law, or we don't want you to get caught even though you might be breaking the law. What we should all be wanting is that anyone who's breaking the law, we should want them to get caught. Now, why do I have that opinion? Because if you don't get caught, you might go and hurt somebody. The behavior that we know is unsafe might lead to that serious injury and death that I'm always talking about. So the goal is to catch everybody, give them tickets, and hopefully change their driving behavior. That's the reason we do what we do. All right. Boom, boom, boom. Good morning to Ian. How are you? Hope all is well. I went to a certain shaving company. This is Chase. Certain shaving company and kitchen yesterday that you recommended, and the guys were awesome, and they knew who you were. I know exactly where you went, and I have driven through Kitchener with the intention of going to visit those amazing people, and I need to go back to Kitchener. But they were in a meeting when I tried to reach them, and it didn't work out. But I do want to go see their facilities. They make good stuff, and I enjoy their product. And I'm not plugging them because that would be inappropriate, at least in this context. I've talked about them before. They're pretty awesome. What happens if you refuse to help an officer do a roadside vehicle inspection? Help them? Like, are we just going to ask people to come, hey, we're doing a road inspection of this particular vehicle? Do you mean refuse to allow them to do the inspection? Like, you don't pop their hood, you don't do and comply with their requests? There's a charge for that, and they charge you with it. Yeah. Now, I assume, and I'd have to read the small print, but if you don't comply, aside from the charge, I'm going to assume we're going to, just like refuse a breath sample, I'm going to assume you're not going anywhere because your vehicle would be, not considered safe. So we haven't been able to verify it. Let's see. Let's see what happens. Inspection. Let me look that up. Should probably spell it correctly. Inspection. Fail to surrender. No. That's inspection schedule. Fail to. I don't want to spend too much time looking for this, but I know there is a charge. Got lots of schedules. What do we got here? Apparently, I need to do some reading when I'm not live on the internet. But you do have to comply, and if you don't, you're going to get tickets. What the specific charges are, apparently I can't find it under pressure. Douglas Allen has a question or a statement, or let's see here. Home with my 11-year-old son who has a stomach bug. He would like to know when he can legally sit in the front passenger seat. Well, Dad, you might not like the answer, but legally, the front passenger seat has no age requirement. Now, for safety professionals like doctors and road safety professionals, say backseat till 14. When you're 14 years old, it is safe to come up to the front, regardless of whether or not you need a seatbelt to drive or not. So you're at 11 years old, not required to be in a booster seat, although it might be safer if you're a smaller frame. That said, if you're just in a seatbelt in the back seat, that is the safest place for you to be. There you go. What do we got here? Stephen Bell says, you drank, you drive, you lose. Yes, I was editing some video this morning because we went on the 16th of November to the provincial ride program launch. We do that sort of thing. It is officially ride season. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's always ride season. We're always looking for people who choose to drive under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And oddly enough, I constantly am posting about what those charges and how many charges and the tidbits, because I like the tidbits. I talk about this stuff all the time. So what is provincial ride? How is it any different? Well, aside from the fact that we make announcements, that we put on a big show because we want people to really know that we're out there to dissuade them. We want people to be dissuaded from choosing to make the stupid choice of getting behind the wheel of a motor vehicle or conveyance of any kind while under the influence of drugs or alcohol. So it's a criminal offense. And you are also obligated by law to make a breath sample upon demand or comply with the request or demand, I should say, for a roadside, what am I thinking of here? A standard field sobriety test. So whether it be a breath sample or a battery of tests, you're obligated by law to perform those on demand. And if you don't, well, it's refusal and you get charged criminally for refusing, and it's the same consequences as if you failed. Bad, right? So you just know that you may be stopped and you may be investigated. And with mandatory alcohol screening, everybody who is stopped, and anyone can be stopped, just to see if you're under the influence, and everyone can be made to perform a breath sample. And even if you have nothing to drink, and you say, I've had nothing to drink, everyone gets the test, and if you refuse that, criminal charges are coming your way. So just as a FYI. What's this? Chase sharing tidbits. Interesting. It's common in South Korea to leave your phone number in the bottom of the car windshield in case someone needs you to move the car. That is interesting. I don't want anyone to know my telephone number, but it is interesting. Riley Eaton with a YouTube question. What is the purpose of requiring a front license plate? No other provinces in Ontario require them. No other provinces in Ontario. Ontario is a province. I'm assuming that's that you mean no other provinces in Canada require them. The deal is that the front license plate is issued. It's required. Doug Ford was going to get rid of them because twice the cost of having two rather than having one, and it was scrapped after he went to his trusted advisors, the Ontario Association of Chiefs of Police, who rightfully said, you have twice the chances of identifying a vehicle with two plates. It's a public safety benefit. Thus, we will keep having them forever and ever and ever, as far as I can tell. Let's talk about those. Brian Max, what's happening?
It's a rainy Tuesday morning, isn't it?
Is it rainy? I haven't been outside.
Yeah,
it wasn't raining when I drove in.
Yeah, got up a bit early, and then just got back from walking the dog, and didn't get there was no attempts at running me over or the dog today.
So what people may not know, and by the way, Brian, I mentioned you at the beginning of the show saying you might be popping in, and for anyone who has no idea who you are, let's tell them, because you're a radio guy, a print guy, a YouTube guy, a race car guy. Like you're a man of many talents.
It all revolves around cars. So co-host of Dave's Corner Garage radio show. I have my own YouTube channel under my own name, which is primarily New Cars, and we got a new episode to talk about this week, especially here. And then of course I've been writing about cars for years. Currently not doing much of that, but also for that reason or for other reasons, I'm not writing. And the big reason is we started a professional sports car team that races in the United States. So I'm a little busy with that, and we've got 3 cars now racing under our banner. So it's pretty exciting.
And those happen to be Mercedes GTRs. Is that did I get that order right?
Close. It's based on the Mercedes AMG GT, and they are GT4 race cars.
Lots of acronyms and numbers and letters.
It's confusing unless you're in the business. So GT4 is a global category for race cars, so it makes it easy for any local championship to find a home for these. So they are specific, and they race against all other GT4 category cars.
The let's see here. We have when you popped in, we were talking about front license plate, rear license plate, and what do they say here? They were following up with. I said that we are the only place that has them because it's twice the chances. And they said the abilities of other provinces aren't hindered by the lack of plate. This is according to Riley. I would argue, Riley, that you don't know what you don't know. So you don't know how many people you don't identify unless you identify them
precisely.
So you wouldn't. It's one of those things you just don't capture that information. I bet you they are hindered because anyone oncoming isn't being captured.
So speaking of which, and I'm sure we've spoken about this before, but your viewers and listeners probably don't know this because they're so rare. Last week I was driving a Genesis, and it's owned by Genesis Canada, and it was fitted with a manufacturer license plate.
Yes.
And that's an Ontario manufacturer plate. So they're very, very rare. But the way that law is written is that just the rear plate is required. So over the years that I've been driving these, I have been pulled over several times, and for not having a front plate on an Ontario registered car. And I try to be polite as possible, but the fact of the matter is, even your colleagues, Sean, are often unaware of the manufacturer plate.
It is a rarity, and yeah, it's funny. Not everyone is a traffic geek like me. Not everybody knows about stuff, and I didn't know about all these things. So it was one of the viewers who actually mentioned, like I knew that manufacturer plates were good or usable for manufacturers to deliver vehicles to a point of or a destination, but I didn't realize that, like in the scenario that you use them when you're demoing cars for media purposes, that you would use them.
Yeah, and it's pretty common. Not every manufacturer uses them, but several do. And I'm always on the lookout because I'm expecting to be pulled over wherever I'm driving, and someone wants to, an officer somewhere wants to write me a no front plate ticket on a fancy new car. But unfortunately, the law is pretty clear, and all of those interactions have been interesting because it's like, this is a manufacturer plate. There is no front license plate required, and you're going to learn something today.
And you are definitely the right person to share that information.
Some days.
Some days. We still have, interesting. We knew, so maybe this is computer. So for people who are like, what just happened?
Yeah.
We've been having an issue with our connection, and we thought it might be internet, but you have a new internet provider, and it's still happening. So it might be computer.
We'll see if this happens again. Then we'll transition over to the phone.
It is sad when a phone is more stable than a computer, but it seems to be that the technology is so far ahead on the phones that they are now the way to go. Sam Pelche Gilchrist wants to know. So this is an out of context response because it happened a while ago.
Yeah.
And that is the question was, can we just discuss the differences between a whatchamacallit, what is it called? A quota versus just doing your job. So
Right.
If it's not a quota, which is what I say is the situation, because that is what the situation is, they want to know why the number of arrests and tickets are given out and tracked. Each officer ranked off it. Officers don't get ranked based on their tickets, but we do track performance. And performance just means that we're looking to see what you're doing with your time. Now, if you go out and you work for 8 hours or 10 hours or 12 hours, whatever the shift is that you're on, and you do nothing, but everybody else does something, there's a problem there. So
Yeah,
tracking your performance doesn't mean you have a quota. It means we're watching what you do, and you best be doing something.
exactly.
But it's no difference. If you work at McDonald's, they want to know what you're doing with your time.
Of course, everything is measured.
Yeah. Let's see here. We've got. I always like getting your perspective when we talk about the stuff that I often talk about, because as not a police officer and as a race car driver, owner, person, you have a thing about speed. You like to go fast.
I like to go fast on the racetrack.
Yes, a lot of people like to go fast, and oddly enough, somebody yesterday was complaining or whining about the fact that you're not allowed to speed, and that there's not enough racetracks in close proximity to where they live, and that if we don't want people to speed on the road, we, the police, the government, should do something about making more racetracks. Right.
Can I speak in the colloquial here?
Hey, you be you. You're not governed by what I'm
No,
doing.
I'm not. So, to whomever made that statement, suck it up, Buttercup. Because when I was a kid and wanted to go racing, I made those sacrifices. My closest racetrack was 2 hours from my home. So, if I can do it, you can do it too.
It really is not a big deal. And if you're serious about it, you do it where it's safe, where they have crews and environments where you're not putting others at risk.
Exactly. I mean, and the reason people don't make the effort is once they just want to go fast and whatever, but when they approach a track day, they realize that they've got to pay attention to the condition of their car, have to make sure that it's reasonably safe and everything else, and then of course, if your car's not it's got bad brakes or bad tires or whatever the case is, you've got to replace those before you consider going out on the racetrack, even though some people don't. And then of course you need a helmet, and that, as far as I'm concerned, the helmet is the most important piece of safety equipment, and the decent ones aren't cheap. It's we're not talking about a bicycle helmet. So people don't want to spend the extra money. They just want to go fast, and they think that public roads are the right place to do it. But for a million reasons, from my perspective, forget about the law for a second. The reason, even if the road is clear, the number one reason why you shouldn't be going fast on public roads is because the conditions are never predictable. On the racetrack, they're predictable. Unless even if somebody has a motor that blows up and oils all over the track, well, I would get communication from the corner workers that there's a slippery surface. So the road surface is way too unpredictable to drive at a car's limits, especially modern cars. Modern cars are 400, 500, 600 horsepower. You can buy those off the dealer showroom floor.
I often get questions about, is it legal to have a 600 horsepower car, to modify it that way? And yeah, when you're buying things off the rack that have that kind of power, it's legal.
Yeah, well, I've been driving this fall quite a bit the refreshed BMWs, a lot of the M products, and they're over 600 horsepower by the factory rating, and the factory rating is low. They're closer to 700 horsepower, these cars.
That I don't think I need that, just personally.
Well, the thing is, you don't need to use it, but
it means nice to have. Oh. And he's back.
And I'm back.
But it is happening less frequently than before.
It's bizarre. Yeah, so we'll see. And apparently this internet is I don't know, 5 or 10 times faster than what I had before, which was fast to begin with.
It's weird.
I don't know. Anyway, take it to the track. That's all I have to say.
Take it to the track is it. I see so much, and as someone who commutes in the wee hours, like I leave the house at 5 a.m, I see people, they're rocket ships. They're doing 30, 40, 50 kilometers over the speed limit. I just wish I could write all the plates down and charge them. I can't even see them; they're a blur.
Well, yeah, and I spend a lot of time on the road because I'm testing and shooting episodes and whatever. So I drive a lot. I drive a lot more than the average person, and I've just noticed in the last year or so the number of drivers who drive so badly. So a couple of weeks ago, and I'm sure you saw it on my social media, on all of my platforms, I posted 2 questions. Why are drivers so terrible, and what do drivers do or don't do that makes them so terrible? And of course, turns out everybody wants to be heard on that subject.
I bet.
It was incredible. So the responses were incredible, and props to AI. I just copied and pasted all of the responses into a document, had AI analyze it for me, and we distilled it down to 5 different topics with some notes. And then, I couldn't leave everybody hanging on social media. So what I did is I shot an episode, and I think I'm going to drop that episode tomorrow. And
Okay.
I'm trying to. My style is not to be offensive, and I'd love for the thumbnail of the title of the video to say, "You suck at driving," but that's really not my style. That's really what I want to say, but it's not my style. So I think it's gonna lead with, "You are a terrible driver." But see, I'm a giver. I love delivering solutions. It's not just saying this is a problem.
You
I'm not.
suck, and that's it. You
Yeah,
suck,
no, no,
but
no.
here's
It's
how you
like,
can be better.
here's I'd like to think that fans of my channel, like people who are engaged with the channel, are better than the average driver, because that's what we talk about a lot, and it's very much about the driving experience rather than the car and that kind of silly thing. So I'd like to think that um, our viewers are better than average, and on top of that, I do drop sort of how-to pieces every once in a while on how to improve your driving. So in the episode, I've got solutions for everything, of course, but then 3 bonus tips that everybody needs. So and that's just the basics: how to sit behind the steering wheel. Also, you're going to love this. I titled the segment "Blind Spots Are a Myth." And the third one is how to use your eyes effectively, because when you're, we'll get to it, but when you go to driving school, or whomever you're taught, but you're never really taught where to look and why and how. So I've broken that down for the first time on YouTube, how to do that, where to look, and I think I did a good demonstration of that. So for me, vision is number one, and us humans, we're still animals, and the reality is, when you're driving, where you look determines where you go, and it's the old adage of steer into the skid or look where you want to go and all that stuff, but it all comes down to where you look. So if you've got good vision habits, you're going to be a bit safer. So I'm bringing a little bit of knowledge, but
you
if
you
you'd like
you
to.
say sorry, you say look where you want to go. That's kind of one of the best tips. We had a T-shirt, Head and Eyes. In the Motor Squad, we talk about head and eyes.
Yeah,
Where you
yeah,
look is where you will go.
yeah, exactly.
And,
So
and it's funny how many people stare at trees and hit them. Wherever there is a pole, there is a car that has hit it. It is inevitable.
yes, that is called target fixation.
It is. I'm glad that they have terms for those things now, of course.
Hmm.
It is, but people stare at the target and wonder why.
Yeah.
They can't help it.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So yes, blind spots are, I'm gonna this is one of those small hills I'm willing to die on, but I can't wait for the blowback. But blind spots are a myth.
I agree, because if you look, there's no blind spot.
Well, it requires 2 things: adjusting your mirrors. Well, it starts with being seated properly, and then you adjust your mirrors properly, so that you've got basically a complete view between all 3 mirrors across the back. So you're not
Hmm.
repeating what you see. You don't need to see the sides of your car. It's not going anywhere.
Yeah, properly. Oh, he's gone. Properly adjusted mirrors is a huge thing.
That's the thing. So it's not I'm again, I'm all about solutions. So I'm not just saying adjust your mirrors properly. I tell you exactly how to do it with some precision, so you can so whomever it is can try it on the road, and explain not to do it while you're driving, but while you're stationary, and how to do that. But if you are actually participating in the act of driving and have your mirrors adjusted properly, there's no blind spots.
Yes, and then additionally, we've got new technology that is always being advanced, and with camera technology, there's really nothing that you won't see. In fact, the car will
No.
probably wake you up from your nap and tell you to look over your shoulder.
Well, I mean, I tend to drive more premium test cars, and the one I'm driving this week has sensors, so it'll tell you, if somebody's to the outsides of the right or the left of your car. But the one I drove last week, the Genesis, actually has cameras built into the outboard mirrors, and will actually show you a view when you turn on your turn signal. It will show you vehicles to the back and to the left, or to back and to the right.
I got to jump to a question.
Mhm.
We've been chatting, but we haven't been answering questions, and I know that drives certain people crazy. I appreciate it. We do a little this and a little that. Kiana wants to. Oh, hey, Kiana, we haven't seen you in a while. Is it illegal to change lanes in the middle of an intersection? Did you grow up thinking that it was? Because I grew up thinking that it was.
Yeah, I did too, and it's another thing I said in this particular video is that I try to be the example in traffic, just because I'm higher skilled than most drivers, so I try not to do that. I don't think it's setting a good example, but I don't know whether it's legal or otherwise.
It is not illegal.
Wow.
Now, I say that, and then I have to come back and say that it's not advisable. It's not something we suggest, but it's not illegal simply because it's an intersection. Like it is possibly the worst place to make it a lane change.
Yes.
Because everyone, and I always say the same thing. Everyone, the road is like a stage of a play, and everyone has a part, and everybody else knows what that part is. So if you don't do what that part suggests in the script, you're going to have a collision. So
Yes.
that's really the deal. Is it a good idea? No, it's not. Is it illegal? No, it's not. But you might be at fault for the collision you caused.
Exactly. I don't think I just don't think it's a good idea, whether it's legal or otherwise. I don't know if you're seeing the question from Chase.
Which one?
What are the best ways to correct understeer when cornering?
Hit the button, put it on screen.
How do
Maybe
can I
you
do
can't
that? No, no,
I'm
I
gonna have to
cannot do
make
that.
you an admitted one of these days.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay.
So what are the best ways to correct understeer or cornering?
Yeah, well, so understeer on the road is really bad because what that means is you've actually broken the limits of traction of your front tires. And what understeer means is I'm going to try and break this down so that everybody can understand it. What that means is you're turning the wheel, and your front tires are skidding. Your rear tires are doing just fine, but you've done something to overload those front tires, and they've run out of grip. They said we don't have any more grip for you, so we're done. We're no longer participating. So there's really only one remedy, and that's to slow down. So you've got to, and that doesn't mean abruptly either, because if you do that, you cause more weight transfer to the front axle, the rears lose grip, and then you're just spinning. So the best way to do it, and the best way to practice this is, of course, on the racetrack. And simply what you need to do is progressively come out of the throttle. So don't abruptly come off the throttle, but progressively come out of the throttle, straighten the steering wheel at the same time. Hopefully you've got enough road to complete that maneuver, but that's the only way to do it, is progressively come out of the throttle and then start steering straight.
Now, with front-wheel drive cars, wasn't it originally the other way around? Like you were supposed to gas it when you lost traction, like the different front wheel versus rear wheel, or is that no longer the way it is? Because I vaguely remember when front wheel was new.
So understeer is pretty much universal. It can be remedied in the same manner that I just mentioned. So progressively coming out of the throttle, slowly straightening the steering wheel on every kind of car, truck, whatever it is. Oversteer.
We lost him. We'll be right back. Here we go.
So oversteer is the opposite. It's where the rear tires lose traction. Uh-huh. And that is remedied differently depending on the type of car that you drive. So I've raced all kinds of cars, but I also raced front wheel drive cars for a really long time. And if the rears lose traction and you get oversteer, our technique to remedy that would be to get as much throttle as possible, foot to the floor.
So different things.
Yes, and what that does is it causes a little bit of weight transfer from the front axle to the rear, and that little bit of weight transfer puts a little bit more weight over those two contact patches of the tires at the back, and the contact patches grow, give you a little bit more grip, and away you go. But remedying oversteer in a rear-wheel drive car and some types of all-wheel drive or four-wheel drive cars are a little bit different. But all of this stuff is best practiced at the racetrack, and go to performance driving school, learn how to do this. I taught it for years.
You mean there's courses to make you a better driver that everyone should take?
There are, and they're available everywhere. There's cool ones too. A good friend of mine did a rally school in the U.S. and it's on gravel. And what's great about that is you don't have to drive that fast to break traction, and you're learning all of this stuff. You're learning how to manage oversteer. You're learning how to mitigate understeer. You're learning how to induce oversteer. It's all the fun stuff.
Now, question from the audience: what's your YouTube? And I put up your Twitter on screen.
Yeah.
Oddly enough, your name is Brian Max, and you can be found at most of these platforms by that name.
That's right. Yeah, YouTube is Brian Max, all the platforms. And if you're bored, just go to makse.com, my last name.com, and all the links are there.
Okay, shifting to a question about collisions. There's a whole bunch of questions. I've been cutting and pasting while you've been talking. Tim Shallow wants to know, when you're involved in a collision, is someone always charged with an offense? No, not always. But there's always someone who is going to be listed as more responsible. A driver one is generally going to be the person who is at fault, who caused it, because there is always someone responsible. And it could be both people responsible. And very often, if we have justification to lay charges to all, we will. If we can only justify laying charges to one, well, we'll charge to one. And if we cannot articulate or support enough to lay charges to anyone, it may just be a collision on paper. And that really is the crux of it. We won't write tickets to things we can't articulate.
Yeah. Actually, in this episode about bad driving, I've got a little bit in there about when I was rear-ended by somebody who was distracted on their phone, and of course I had to go to the collision reporting center. I have no idea what the outcome was. I literally don't know if the young woman was charged, but clearly she was distracted.
Generally not. Generally, I can say that generally speaking, collision reporting center collisions do not involve charges. Doesn't mean it won't, just generally not. If it's stuff like fail to remain or no insurance, things of that nature, yes, they will be. But when it comes to the I can't take your word for it that they were on the phone.
Right.
That's the problem. I can't lay charges based on your information.
Yeah. Thankfully, I could see that she was paying attention to her phone, and I was able to alert my passenger that we were going to get hit. And they make a little make a reference.
If you had dash cam front and back, and you could provide that, that would absolutely be excellent evidence for that.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was driving a Mustang GT manual, and on my way to shoot an episode with a legitimate rock star.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Is that one of the episodes that I missed?
Mm-hmm. I don't think it exists on the internet anymore.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. That it wasn't for the YouTube channel.
Gotcha. Okay, because you do lots of different stuff that isn't shared on the internet that makes it a higher production stuff.
Yes.
Chase wants to know what our thoughts are on municipalities wanting to ban right turns on reds like Montreal, and do you think it would have any positive effect in Toronto? And I can tell you first off that it's being discussed, it's being proposed. People really, 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 really want us to ban right turns on red lights. Montreal, it's only the island that's no right turn on red.
That's right.
Whereas the rest of Quebec does allow it. I happen to really like being able to make a right turn on red when it's safe to do so. That's probably the biggest thing. If people actually followed the rule, I don't think there'd be an issue or a reason. But we have so many people who just blow through that red light on the right turn. It is shocking.
Yes. Speaking of tickets, I think
and tickets and then
we disappear. Yes. This, I think it was in the summer, I earned myself an amazing speeding ticket by one of those roadside cameras. Viewers and listeners have to be ready for this. The speed I was going, I was ticketed for doing 44 kilometers an hour.
Really? In a 30, yes. I imagine.
In a 30. I had no idea it was a 30. But yeah. And of course I'm driving
percentage over.
Yeah, whatever it was. So of course I'd love to have a chat with the Crown at some point. So we filed that ticket.
Well, the deal is though, and I know that there's mixed emotions as to whether or not people, even if it's an abandoned street, if it's no one there at 100, no life to be seen.
Yeah,
speeding is speeding, and they say don't do it because it's breaking the law. Here's a question, actually, and it comes into play with points, demerit points. If this is Riley who wants to know about front plates earlier, so They said if there's no demerit points for a ticket for no front plate, it can almost be considered a paid subscription to not have a front plate. Interesting thing about this, and I think a lot of people don't understand how tickets and insurance companies work. Demerit points have nothing to do with your insurance.
Right. Exactly. Yep.
A conviction has everything to do with your insurance.
Yes.
And it doesn't matter if it's for forgetting your driver's license at home. It doesn't matter if it's for no front plate. It doesn't matter what the charge is. A conviction, although ranked differently, they have different weight. Maybe that. So this is considered a minor. If you have 3 minors, it's a major. So if you have 3 no front plate tickets, well, what do you think the insurance company is going to do? They're going to say this person doesn't understand how to follow the rules. They are high risk, and it will increase your premiums.
Absolutely.
Additionally, if I see someone who's getting their subscription plan for no front plate, I'm going to give you a summons to court. It's an option a police officer has. They can send you directly to court with a court date instead of allowing you to simply pay the ticket by subscription. You got to go and either pay a representative to go on your behalf or you get to go. But I am going to up the ante if I see someone who's trying to play that game. It's a silly game. It wastes taxpayer money for someone who continuously goes and plays these games and then wants to go to court to fight it or just pay it, whatever it is. It's going to take you to court. You can explain to a justice or JP to why you can't follow the rules.
Mm-hmm.
I started to say waste taxpayer money. I think anyone who takes a ticket that they are responsible for but don't want to pay is a waste of taxpayer money. That's where I blended 2 thoughts.
Yeah.
A lot of people just roll the dice.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And when the manufacturer plates first came out, I was pulled over in Peel. And apparently I was speeding on a road that should have been like 80 kilometers an hour. But of course it had a 50 kilometer an hour speed limit. I'm driving by myself. I think I was doing high 60s, got pulled over for that. I'm like, I don't know why I'm getting pulled over. And the officer was super cool. He's like, yeah, it's 50 zone here. You're doing 60, whatever. And I'm like, okay. And he's like, I got to talk to you about the plate. I'm like, well, this is, you're going to learn something about the plate. And we had a nice chat. And turns out he didn't file the ticket subsequently. So that ticket never made it to the system.
Yes, I've seen that happen. Randy wants to know, Randy the realist, why are there so many uninsured scooters, etc., on our streets?
Oh, yes.
That is such a good topic to talk about.
I live in the middle of the city, and when I'm on busy sidewalks, these guys come whizzing by. They pretend to be cars, motorcycles, pedestrians, bicycles, whatever they want. And one of these, especially now, it's getting worse and worse in my neighborhood. Unfortunately, if one of these guys comes whizzing at me, I will not be moving out of the way. I used to race BMX, and BMX was is a very physical sport. I have no problem using my shoulders to knock somebody off.
You're going to stand your ground.
I am not moving. So
that's one way to plant your feet and stand your ground.
Yeah, well,
if you're talking about e-kick scooters, which is a huge problem. First of all, they're banned in Toronto. $110 fine for using it on the road, for using it on the sidewalk, for using it in the park. They are not legal anywhere. And those are only the ones, and he's gone, and he'll be back, and here he is.
Yeah, I'm still here.
Yeah, so only addressing the ones that are legal in the province but illegal in Toronto. That's a $110 fine for using it. Now, what makes them legal in the province and in other jurisdictions is if it is maxed, not capable of going faster than 24 kilometers an hour on a flat surface, no seat is attached, and is not carrying more than one person or carrying cargo. That makes it legal in some jurisdictions, but not Toronto. If it goes 25 kilometers an hour, or has a seat, or is carrying cargo, or is carrying more than one it is a motor vehicle. It is not covered under the rules prescribed. Thus, it is eligible for a ticket. For no insurance, no license, no plate, no safety, no improper brakes, no horn, no light. Like everything under the sun becomes an option for those riders. Now, just the ticket for no insurance is $5,000 to $25,000 and up to 6 months in jail. And I think that's exactly where people should be going if they can't follow the rules.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. You're preaching to the choir with me in the city. Especially in my neighborhood, it's a real problem. On that subject, I have to mention that for the race team, we picked up a couple of those new Honda Moto Compactos. I don't know if you've seen them, but
The
it's an
fold-up
EV.
trunk scooter?
Yeah, you can fold it up into the size of a suitcase and you can carry
Yes.
it and all of that. So we picked up a couple of those
Nice.
recently. So we got the first ones in the area. So they'll be liveried with our team livery.
And you can use that on private property for when you're at the track.
Well, I mean, we travel all over the U.S. and into Canada, so we'll be zipping around on these at racetracks around North America.
Now, are they licensed for the road? Can they be licensed for the road?
No, not at all.
But they're gas powered.
No, they're EV. The original ones were gasoline powered. So here's the specs. So max speed is 15 miles an hour.
Okay.
0 to 15 miles an hour takes 7 seconds.
Super fast.
And the range is 12 miles.
Okay, we're not talking crazy stuff.
No. So we've got a couple of those, and we'll be looking like nerds at IMSA races.
The nerds shall inherit the earth.
That's what they say.
Ted wants to know if U-turns are legal everywhere unless sign is posted otherwise.
Great question.
Not quite. U-turns, which I think are actually incredibly dangerous. I know of too many deaths as a result of them. Usually it's the person who hooks a U-turn while someone is going quickly. We lost a police officer to a U-turn situation many years ago. Tragic situation. They were responding to a call. Someone decides to hook a U-turn and, of course, didn't know that the vehicle was coming. The collision caused a tragic loss. So the deal with U-turns is, obviously, if it's a sign posted, you can't do it for 150 meters from that area. It has to be safe you have to be able to complete it safely, which means that if you cause a collision, it's your fault.
Yep.
But there are some places that are absolutely prohibited. So in front of I would also say within, but at bridge, viaduct, tunnel, railway crossing, corner where there's no visibility, or grade of road where there's no visibility, because obviously you're asking for a collision at that point. Are you a U-turn fan? Do you pull U's?
No, I again try to lead by example. So I don't do what people do, and I'm not far from major streets, and I see people pull U-turns without consideration of anyone. Sure, the turn is legal, but they're doing it so they're causing somebody to slow down or whatever the case is. So I generally don't, and I'll wait. Mostly because I just don't trust other drivers, and I would never. That's it. So I don't have time to go to the collision reporting center and all of that. I just can't rely on other drivers to stop safely if I'm going to drive in front of them. So
I talk about this all the time. You have to assume that no one's paying attention, that no one sees you. So I will rather pull into a private drive, go around the block, pull down to a side street, do anything but make a U-turn, and use your PB08. Stop spamming. I'm finally down here like, oh my God, the same question 16 times. I guarantee you.
We'll get there.
It's going to happen.
There was a good question I saw. What was that? Oh, from Chase P.
Chase always has some. Just a comment. Beyonder says, "I love that you're always podcasting, so we get awareness." Well, thank you very much for that comment.
Yes.
We're going to find Chase's. I'm sure I flagged it. Which one was it?
Is a police officer allowed to
to kick you off the screen? Apparently, we laugh about it because we can't cry.
So Chase was asking, there it is. Is a police officer allowed to take your e-bike at a traffic stop and test it if it goes faster than 32 kilometers an hour?
Oddly enough, we can submit it for a test, but I don't want to test drive your bike. So generally speaking, if you are driving in a way that doesn't require us, so if we got you on laser, which we will laser speed enforcement on e-bikes, if we catch you going more than 32, because e-bikes, I said 24 earlier, that's free kick scooters. E-bikes, it's 32, and Chase, of course, knows that. So we can seize your bike in certain situations. We wouldn't seize your e-bike, but you would be pedaling away because it would not be lawful to use the electric power, because we would be able to identify that vehicle is in fact a motor vehicle, unless you disengage the power system. Now, if you turned it back on a block later, we could pull you over and charge you all over again. Now, and there'd be additional charges for that because you'd be directed by a police officer not to. Um, and in situations where it would be appropriate to seize an e-bike, it wouldn't be towed to an impound because its lack of VIN means it would be going into a secure storage. Like if you were stunt driving, if you were seizing it by way of impaired driving, because they qualify at any speed for motor vehicles under the criminal code.
Yeah.
So if you're impaired on an e-bike, you're going to have it seized, and you're going to get your license suspended, even if you're not, at that point, it's a problem. But what is the point? What is the point of this? Are we allowed to take it for? So, generally speaking, I'll do an inspection. If I can identify that has more than 500 watts of power, that is right there a motor vehicle, regardless of how fast you're going. The motor is more than 500 watts of power capable. That means it's a motor vehicle. That is a good question, though.
Yeah, it's a great question.
But that's Chase. Chase. I've met Chase a number of times. He is. I want to say mini me. He's not so mini, but he's still smaller than I am. So he's sort of my mini me. He looks like I did like 20 years ago.
Well, pretty much everybody's smaller than you, or at least shorter.
Well, and even when I was at the ride kickoff on the 16th, officers from other police services came up and said, you're a lot bigger in person.
Yeah,
you don't fit on that little screen.
That's right.
So here's the question that I got asked 1,000 times. If we renewed our license plate online, do we still need the physical ownership with us? Yes. Renewing it has nothing to do with the piece of paper being required. You are absolutely required.
Yeah.
And just a tidbit for anyone who's watching and says, how do we renew these things? Trafficcop.ca, I've got links at the bottom. Also, if you are someone who forgets things, you can sign up to get a renewal notification for your license, your license plate, your driver's license, your license plate, and your health card from Ontario. There's a link there for signing up for the reminder stuff. They can text you, they can phone you, they can email you. Good stuff to do just to avoid getting a ticket. Let's see. Well, here's a good question. Andy Reid wants to know, when roads get icy and there's a 6-car pileup, if the last car is sliding, who would be at fault? There could be fault distributed throughout that collision because it's not one collision. If the first car hits the second, the second car hits the first car, there's collision 1. The second car or the third car hits the second car, there's collision 2, and it will cascade. If it wasn't all in one incident, that's multiple collisions. And if the person at the end is absolutely going to be the last person responsible because you're driving beyond your ability to see and you're driving beyond the ability of the vehicle to maintain traction in the weather, and you're always responsible for that. Sometimes the right way to drive is to choose to stay home.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't know. It seems every time I'm on the 401 lately, there's some kind of emergency. The other day, it was pretty clear by the time I got there what had happened. So somebody was driving along at speed and rear-ended another vehicle, but not square. It was a little offset. And because they were going so fast, they managed to spin a couple of times. So the car that hit the other car that was from the rear was the one that ended up spinning.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it triggered much fun.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, I didn't get to see it, but it was pretty easy to reconstruct it in my mind. But yeah, it was not a good crash. And
no
again,
crash is a good crash.
No crash is a good crash. Well, yeah, even race car crashes are bad.
I love that this.
Yeah,
I love this particular statement. But sorry, finish your thought.
Well, I'm going to say next time we're doing it on the phone. I don't know whatever. Or we'll use a different machine.
I know not. I know not why this is. But you're the only person that this happens to.
Yeah. Okay.
So I love this particular question. I love that someone in grade 8 is watching and interacting with us. So welcome, My Adventures official, for your comment. I appreciate your question. They say, I'm in 8th grade and I got stopped and ticketed because my BMX bike didn't have brakes. So I gave the ticket to my mom. She was not amused. Well, did you get a ticket? Were you wearing a helmet? Because I would have given you a ticket for not wearing your helmet too.
I will say what is this? person's
My
name?
Adventure's official.
So my
Very good.
adventure's official. I hope you prove me wrong, but I think the brakeless BMX guys are also the ones who don't wear helmets. So hopefully you're not one of those riders. But I also ride BMX still. So love my BMX bikes, and I'm not a brakeless guy.
I don't understand the lack of brake business. I guess for
It's
stunts.
it's more it's more the guys who like doing tricks and stuff. But I get it. Ride street or whatever. I get it. It's not my style of riding.
Well, the one thing that everyone needs to know is that you're eligible for a ticket even if you're in grade 8. In fact, if you're under 12, it's is it under 12? Under 12, it's your parents who get a ticket. Over 12, it's going to be you who gets a ticket with a notification to your parent. You're absolutely eligible. And guess what? That ticket shows up even like when you get your license. Like it's a 4-hour ticket. It goes on your history. It's an HTA ticket.
Wow.
That's
new to me.
I've never laid a charge for brakes on a bicycle. I have laid charges for helmets.
Okay. Yeah.
I love this. I love statements that are awesome. So Rave, his username says, "Hell yeah, and actually useful live."
Okay.
I like it. I like it a lot.
Great.
Chase has a follow-up question. So if I have a 2,000-watt motor and it can go crazy fast, but it also has pedals, could you operate it solely as a bicycle on the road and not violate any laws? So technically speaking, it's a motor vehicle. You should be pushing it or walking it or disabling the system so that it's not capable of running under power. At that point, I would be comfortable with you leaving. But I will tell you something. There is no e-bike. There is no e-bike that operates with function. Aside from Pedalecs, all these scooter-looking things do not. I mean, those pedals are there for show.
Yes. Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Anyone, like, you look at some of these bikes, and I don't think they'd get 5 feet under pedal power.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. I would when I see some of those riders, especially the ones who ride badly, I would love to be a police officer and challenge them to pedal whatever machine they're on, because I know that doesn't work.
Well, that's it. So it shouldn't just be that the pedals are there; it's that you're capable of traveling more than 5 feet. Using them, because it's just not going to happen. Yusuf Aslan says, "What's the legal tint in Ontario? Are you a tinted window guy? Do you like tinted windows?"
So one of my cars is, because I try to buy smart with good used cars, and that's one of them that I bought happened to be tinted. So it was low mile, and this goes back to buying your cars right. So complete service history, never been wrecked. Great mechanical inspection, and single owner, whatever. But one of the things they did was tint the windows, and it's okay. But I don't really care either way. I think I'd rather have this car without the tint. But I do have to say, I was following and then passed a driving school car the other day that I couldn't see into because the windows were so dark.
I have that's totally inappropriate. I have an issue. First of all, I'll take license plates for tinted windows that are absolutely blacked out. If I can't see the driver, if it is more than 30% light blockage, you're losing your plates, my friend. That car is unsafe for the road. You can't see out properly, and I can't see in, and it's just not going anywhere after I pull you over.
Yeah.
But 30% is the legal amount of tint light blockage. But even if it's within the 30% legal blockage restriction, that doesn't mean that you can't get a ticket. It means you can be safetied for the road.
Mm-hmm.
But if your vehicle, it's nighttime and I can't see you, there's still a charge under the HTA that says, what is it, for obscure interior of motor vehicle with color or reflective tint.
Right.
Chase is correcting me, and Chase is correcting me. You made it back. You beamed back in.
I know.
Chase says that it's not 12. The helmet ticket goes to parents if the children are under 16.
Chase is well informed.
Chase is amazing. Chase is going to likely give up his engineering degree and just come and become a police officer working with me in the office. I think that's what's going to happen.
Exactly.
Just saying. I'm recruiting. Yes. I'm always recruiting. Yoda Bud, what's going on? He says, "Hey, my friend, great to see you kill it everywhere." I will. He said, "Kill it" in the reference of being successful. I'm not killing anybody.
No.
But thank you
Yeah.
very much, Yona. Yona's a radio host on AM 640 at least.
Oh, no kidding.
And he's also a man of many talents. He's a therapist. He runs it's called The Farm. He has I think it's called The Farm. Am I saying that correctly? Dealing with folks who have some addiction and mental health issues, and he does amazing stuff. So his radio show is in relation to his work as a therapist. So very good stuff. Thanks for the shout out. I haven't spoken to Yona in a while. He met up with me at Honda India a number of years ago.
Oh yeah.
Let's see here.
There's one from a truck driver. There we go.
That's the one I was going to put up.
Yes.
So he's calling you out.
Yeah. When you drive your transport trucks, you absolutely have blind spots, but you're held to a different standard as a truck driver. You have a different license. So that is a different thing. I'm not talking about transport trucks, and that requires a greater level of care, training, and proficiency than all of us with our G and M licenses in Ontario.
So I've got to show you this because Turf did such a great job. It's going to work. It's downloading. Oh, I probably have downloaded this 25 times. I'm opening up a PDF. Let's see if it works. It worked. I will put it on screen because I think it's good to share. And it is, where is it? But I want to, here we go. Share. Come on, you can do it. Here we go. Size matters. Vehicle size matters. It is really slow to update as I scroll. But the big thing is the first on the left. Look at the blind spots.
Yeah, precisely. And this is one of the things that I just do intuitively. And maybe my parents taught me this, but I just don't drive beside trucks.
Staying beside trucks not a good idea.
No.
Sergeant Campbell's looking at me like, who's he talking to? So Brian Max is on the screen with me. But yeah, it's the 20 feet in front. That's the one that gets me. Yes, you can see beside, and there are other mirrors that can allow them to cheat and see more.
Sure.
But the 20 foot in front, and there are mirrors available, and they're talking about electronic options as well. But the 20 foot in front is where many problems arise because folks at intersections, cyclists, scoot up beside the truck, get right in front, and then they get smushed.
Well, and I think that was the result of that was the situation for the collision not far from me at a corner, and unfortunately a pedestrian was killed, and I think it was a situation where they stepped out in front of a truck, and it was that the driver didn't have line of sight.
I'm going to put us on wide because we got Sergeant Campbell who jumped in.
Hey, Brian, how are you?
Good. How are you, Sergeant Campbell?
Good.
We've been chatting about all sorts of stuff, and it's funny. 1 second, it's not that funny when I can't pull up what I want to pull up, but it's amazing how we keep coming down to things are avoidable. You got to be patient. Transport trucks aren't good to get in front of. Cars aren't good to go fast and zigzag between like this. But at the end of the day, it's all behavior, and we could do so much better.
Yeah, and it's not difficult. That's the thing. And one of the recurring themes. I spend a lot of time in Southern California, and people in Toronto don't like hearing this, but I would rather drive on the freeway in Southern California than I would on the 401, and it's because the driving culture is different there. Even though the freeways are just as busy and everything else, what I find is drivers in Southern California do a better job of staying in their lane in rush hour and busy traffic, because they know that there's no reason to jump from lane to lane to try and get ahead. But in Toronto, our driving culture is a little bit different, and this happens all the time. And I would much rather drive in LA, but I know Toronto drivers.
Oh, this happens.
Yeah.
It only happens with Brian.
Just me.
There's a lot of things that happen in other places, and driving, I think, outside of Ontario is better. I think we have a particular problem in Ontario.
I totally agree. I came back from overseas, and the driving culture over there completely different, but much better, much better.
Now,
Oops.
there's a question here from Chase who says, does anyone know why semi-trucks in North America have the huge hood, but then the European trucks have a flat front? Wouldn't it be better for visibility? I do. All of Europe seems to have flat front, and
Yes.
they have different roads and capacities of where they can go and where they can fit is a big reason.
I know that there was length regulations that used to come out in North America, which have been changed. The cab over design of trucks are less efficient when operating. But I do know in Europe with smaller roads and they have things like ferries and different bridges and stuff like that. They're limited to a certain length. So to get the most they can out of a trailer, they make the truck as short as possible.
But they're not necessarily the best for functionality. But they are for the project
efficiency.
For efficiency,
but
yeah.
what they have to deal with there, that's what they have as an option. They just can't do certain things. I will say the coolest thing about Europe and trucks in Europe or lorries, specifically tow trucks, the towing industry is wild there. They've got like forklifts on a crane. They just swoop up beside you, pick up your whole car. It is loaded and gone in seconds.
That's wild.
On tiny streets. It's the same thing in Israel. It's the same. Much of Europe and the Middle East, they have these tow trucks that are just cool. And I'm not a tow truck junkie, but the Stinger concept that we use here, probably a lot cheaper, but nowhere near as efficient from what I've seen.
Yeah, I totally agree with you.
That's
The
wild.
cost is obviously going to be the contributing factor.
There are what was the other thing they have? They have robots. They have robot tow trucks that they're like little tanks. They drive in and they get under the vehicle and then shoot out their front forks essentially to get the front tires, and then they can get your car from behind your house down an alley all by remote control. It is neat. Yes, I spend too much time on
wild.
the internet.
That's wild.
Let's see here. Go driving in. Ian has an opinion about driving in Mexico. He says, say a prayer beforehand. Traffic signs, road signs, just suggestions.
Yep.
Yeah, I've ridden motorcycle in the Dominican Republic. That was challenging. Suggestions. What is Michael? Michael's been saying some stuff I've read and we've covered it. So this one's actually in response to the Euro cab discussion. So Euro needs cab overs to reduce length. U.S. has a length limit of 7 in 70s. So cab overs were big in the 70s, but that was lifted. 70 cab overs from the 70s are not good for driver comfort. Nothing's good for driver comfort if you're my size.
So Michael just reiterated what I'd said earlier.
Yes.
It was regulations over here before, but we've gone to a different style that allowed for a little more comfort and a bit more fuel efficiency.
Yeah, like in our case, when we're moving the race equipment from the shop or to an event or one event to another, we've got a 53-foot trailer, we've got a full-size truck, but it does have a sleeper in it, and for our usage, that exactly that makes perfect sense for us because we have several events that are multiple days drive from the shop.
And much easier to operate on North American roads.
I don't want to drive
Our roads
truck.
are bigger.
I don't want to drive truck.
No, I know. I don't either. I have no interest in doing that. I leave that to our professionals as well.
And
I don't want to drive the truck.
That's another thing. I don't think people give credit to the professional truckers. That is not a skill that is something you just get behind the wheel and say, I can drive because I can drive, my Toyota. That is a skill, and it is not something that I would want to get involved with because there's too much responsibility.
Yep,
Yeah.
it is, and especially in the urban areas. They do a fantastic job of making big vehicles fit into small spaces.
I've seen amazing, again, YouTube videos where I was spending too much time online where they pull in back up and make it just doesn't it breaks my brain. However, I've driven long distance with 25-foot trucks, and I can get around with them, but articulating vehicles are another beast. Here is a Brandon with a comment. Should people who are charged with stunt driving have to restart or do the driving program all over again? We're not even paying attention anymore to the fact that you go, it's just
whatever. I just drop out for a second.
You know what? Stunt driving, if you're convicted of stunt driving, you're going to lose your vehicle on conviction not your vehicle, your license for 1 to 3 years. On a second conviction, 3 to 10. On a third conviction, you're out of the program forever.
Yeah.
So that's effectively there with you. It's not a matter of education, and there probably is an education program. I don't remember. I know there's some level of education for something. I just don't remember what it is.
I think what they should do is go to a performance driving school or racing school that's run by some of my friends, and humbled and humiliated, because that's the nature of it. I mean, the people who do the stunt driving nonsense on the road are not skilled. And
But they think they're great drivers. Just ask them.
I know, but I guarantee you they could. They couldn't keep up with me on a racetrack, but they think they can.
A couple of things we'll blast through quickly because we've talked a lot, but we've skipped some of these questions. Can I drive my mom's car if I have my G2, but I'm not personally insured? So if you live with your mom, it's a problem because the insurance companies want people who live in the same house to be under the policy named. On a G1, it's not required, but as a G2, it is. So they may have an issue with it. That said, from a police perspective, if you're a G2, you're qualified to operate a vehicle that's under your license banner of G, the qualified class. That's the word I'm looking for. And then you could. So if you didn't live with mom, you could borrow mom's car as a G2 or somebody else's car. I did a video once saying, if you borrow your neighbor's car instead of your mom's car, and you have fewer problems until there's a problem. But that's the story. G2s can drive any vehicle. And another G2 question is, can I drive alone with a G2? I hope you don't have your G2 right now. And the reason I say that is because you should really know this if you have your G2.
That's right.
I'm all about answering questions, but that one's a pretty basic one. That's the whole point of a G2, is you are actually qualified to now drive alone without supervision. In fact, it's almost identical to your G, other than a couple of conditions.
Yeah. Okay. My Adventures Official is back with the BMX question.
Which one's where?
My Adventures Official is back with BMX bike question.
Oh, okay. Hang on a second. Where is it? I'm scrolling up. I am not seeing it. Maybe. But go ahead. Why don't you ask the question?
Okay.
Oh, here it is. There we go. Got it. Grade 8 user, just shouting out that I'm so impressed that you're here. So go ahead. One more question, please, about my BMX ticket for no brakes. Since I didn't crash into anything and I can stop my bike by side skidding, why would I get ticketed? And yes, I got a helmet. Well, I'm impressed he had a helmet because he's in grade 8 and he got a ticket for having no brakes on his bicycle. So let's have a look at the HTA. Because tickets aren't for whether or not you have a collision. It is whether or not you are meeting the requirements.
Yeah.
So I don't know if there's a actual ticket for not having any brakes or improper brakes, but it could be unsafe.
So this style of riding, the riders will typically slide the bike or use their shoe and jam it in the rear tire or even the front tire or whatever to stop in an emergency. And that's the style of riding. Not my style of BMX, but that's typically what they do. I'm not a fan of the brakeless thing for a bunch of reasons, but it's also not my style of riding, and this is what they do.
My question for you, my Adventures Official, is what province are you in, and what charge did you get? Was written.
Yeah, you'd actually have to see what the charge was, because, like I said, in Ontario, I don't believe there's one specifically for improper brakes on a bicycle, but I do believe there is one for an unsafe vehicle.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I looked under bicycles and motorcycles, and they're under the same category. And I looked up brake, and there is no charge that I'm seeing for brake. So unless it was something else, maybe there was some catch-all, maybe there's a bylaw. I'd like to know, because maybe you're in a province that has specific charges for it. Either way, I like this conversation. I said earlier, I've never laid a charge for no brakes on a bicycle because I've never investigated someone for no brakes on a bicycle. I probably wouldn't have known. I'd charge someone who didn't, stop for a stop sign. But I've never done an inspection on a bicycle. So I just assumed when you said you got charged that it must be an offense. Now, there is for an e-bike.
I was about to say, for a power-assisted bicycle, there is.
Yeah.
But I'm assuming your BMX with no brakes is not an e-bike.
Maybe it's another jurisdiction.
That's what I'm thinking it could be. Let's see here. Here's a good question while I'm looking for other things. There we go. He's back. If a truck was carrying an uncovered load and debris got tossed up and cracked my windshield, what should you do? Likely $2,000 in damage. So can police do anything if you got their plate? So obviously you're going to be, calling your insurance company, and you have that information is great. But how do you articulate that person who likely didn't know they were involved and never stopped? Because was that a collision? Well, they damaged your vehicle through having an insecure load.
Yep.
But now it's about proving it. It might be a situation where you're held, paying your deductible unless you can, prove it. That's where dash cameras. I endorse dash cameras. Hey, it's Black Friday week on sales. Dash cameras should be cheap. I don't know which one you get, but any one is better than nothing.
I got a new one, and it had a front and rear camera on it, along with an inside camera. Love it. Would not drive anywhere without one.
Yes, I'm in the same boat. I actually got a new one, hadn't installed it, and don't you know, and this is going back a year now, but while I was in between, having not installed it, that's when I got rear-ended. I would love to have known what the guy who hit me was doing when he hit me.
So an experience that I had, and this was a few years ago when dash cams were fairly new, and I just got one. It also had a GPS in it. So it had an accelerometer, it had a GPS, it could tell your vehicle speed, things like that. And I actually got ran into by a person that was reversing. Somebody was pulling into the police station and decided they didn't want to come into the police station, slammed on the brakes, and I was behind them and I was waiting. And they thought, I'm going to get out of here. They started backing up. I laid on the horn, and
They did not hear you.
I couldn't back up because there was another vehicle behind me.
Right.
And they ran into the front of my first brand new vehicle I ever had. So I was kind of upset. When I called my insurance company, I explained what happened, and they said, well, Mr. Campbell, that may be your perception that you weren't moving, but normally with rear-end collisions, we'd have to wait for a police determination. And I said, well, okay, that's fine. I know what the police report's going to say because, But I said, but I have I have a camera with GPS on it, and it shows me traveling at 0 kilometers an hour, and it showed that the vehicle was backing up. And this was all to do with my deductible that I had to pay. They wanted me to pay up front with my deductible, just in case it was my fault. And if it was determined that it wasn't my fault, then I would at some point, maybe get it back.
Maybe.
So as soon as I sent that video off, she says, don't worry about your deductible. We can clearly see it's somebody else's fault. You don't have to pay it all.
Funny how proof does that.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
A dash camera, best investment you'll make for the just in case, and you can get them for under $50, or you can go bonkers like I did. I spent like $550 on mine.
Wow.
But I wanted the best one I could get because I, oddly enough, create TikTok videos from the content that I wrote.
Well, exactly. That's important.
Yeah, as a content creator, it's different.
Yes.
But I will say this: I am regularly accused of holding my cell phone when I take my video footage, edit it, and have it panning and chasing. People are like, "Oh, this looks like you're breaking the law, man."
Right.
So,
yep.
let's see here. Here's a question, and we'll wrap it up because we're a half an hour over. Chase says, "Is there?" And Chase, you got a lot of light today. You got a lot of good interaction. Is there any special right of way with regard to funeral processions, and how is it legal for private security companies they hire to have flashing purple lights? Well, flashing purple lights don't actually have any authority under the Highway Traffic Act. And is there a right of way with a funeral procession? No. The only time that in a group of cars can be going through a signalized intersection on a red is when when that intersection is under the control of a police officer.
Absolutely. So yes, the people in a funeral are doing this, and they're trying to keep up with the funeral, and it's called a procession for a reason. But there's no lawful authority at all, first of all, to have a purple flashing light, because it only signifies what the lead vehicle is. Second of all, if you put a little placard on the side of your car that says funeral, it's for the respect of other drivers to see what's going on. It does not give you any extra powers at all.
And most, if not all, funeral directors will tell everybody, if you get divided, here's the route. Do not run lights. You have no, it is clearly communicated. And if it's not, that is a problem.
Yep, absolutely.
But you're a driver, and you're responsible for everything you do when you're behind the wheel.
Yeah, exactly. So when that video drops, that's a common theme throughout it. And Sergeant Campbell, I polled my viewers, listeners, followers a couple of weeks ago about what sort of bad driving is going on, and it turns.
Well, at least it's getting faster now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So it turns out that everybody wants to be heard on that subject. So I distilled all the comments into 5 themes, and the theme of the video is you are a terrible driver. But I'm bringing solutions to the table. So.
I'm looking forward to this, and it's going to be available on all your accounts at Brian Max. So
yeah, probably tomorrow morning.
I'll check it
tomorrow
out
morning.
and,
Yeah,
and likely retweet it for all to see. Cameron Neal. I don't know how to. M. Neal. Thoughts on ticketing being priced based off how much money people make. This is a regular conversation we get. This comes up a lot because in Norway, somewhere, Sweden, I don't know, someone got a ticket and they were the VP of a big company and it was like $150,000 and it was speeding. Whereas, here that would have been a $50 or $100 ticket. This was a, $100,000+, whatever it was. So many people say you're only taxing the poor if you give people tickets and the rich don't even feel it. Well, I don't agree with that. I think the ticket is a ticket is a ticket. And if you break the law, your insurance goes up like everybody else. And yes, you may be able to afford expensive insurance, but I also don't have a problem with the idea of dinging people for more because, when you go to bail somebody out, the amount of the bail is based on what the surety, the person bailing you out, thinks is, expensive.
Yeah, and you have to have a deterrence. That's the whole reason of giving tickets is because it's a penalty, and you're not going to do it again, or hopefully not going to do it again, because there's a deterrence value in there. So, if a multimillionaire gets $100 ticket,
I've heard it all the time. Why do you think so many Rolls Royce or fancy cars are parked right in front of the club? Because they don't care. Unless they're being towed away, they don't care.
That's right.
And $50 to park in Toronto down the street, or $50 to pay the ticket parking in front of the building, they'll take the parking in front of the building. And I frankly don't. I get it when it's that kind of car and it's not good. I wouldn't do it, but I get it. Yeah. Here's a silly question. It's not a silly question. All questions are good. Can I pull a sled behind my car with someone in it?
No.
You can't pull a bicycle. Someone hanging onto a vehicle can be charged for that. If you're complicit and part of the problem, you're part of the problem. There's some serious charges that can come out of it if you're part of the setup.
Yeah, it goes as far as saying you can't even tow a proper trailer that is licensed for the road, with occupants inside it as well.
Yeah, it's like not a good idea,
That's such a bad idea.
Mark, the tech guy, says, I remember years ago when I lived in Toronto, the police had 4 Camaro chasers and the police officers took turns driving them, but they all got crashed one at a time. I think it was ducks. Wasn't it ducks?
Ducks are, the mysterious black dog that runs out in the middle of the road.
It was always something. They were saving lives by crashing them.
All right.
We currently have the Chargers right now, the Hemi Chargers.
The Camaros were cool, though.
Yes, they were. I did get to drive one at one point.
You took the special fancy course?
I didn't. I just got to drive one at one point.
But it was a very cool vehicle. I think there was a hood, remnants of a hood somewhere. And that's the only thing left of those vehicles.
Yeah, they were cool, and they actually made you think, because the Camaro was on the highway, that the Camaro would be able to keep up with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Question for me was, do I still go on the streets, or do you mostly do social media? By the way, love what you're doing. Thank you very much. And
that's great.
I don't go on the streets because I'm not currently with my use of force. I don't because of my injuries, I've not been able to go and be on patrol like I would have normally. But I am very happily serving in this capacity, and I think we do some pretty awesome stuff here. So it wasn't on purpose, but even though it was by accident, literally I had a collision. I'm glad to be serving in this way and being able to help the community. So I thank you. I'm glad that you're enjoying what we're doing. Okay, so Akela had a quote of the day. He says, he hits from both sides of the plate. He's amphibious. I thought there was an L for a second. Did Yogi Berra say that, or was it about Yogi Berra?
Amphibious?
Yeah, I thought he was trying to say something else.
It's
so
supposed
it's probably a Yogi Berra quote.
Well, it makes sense because Yogi Berra was wrong when he said amphibious over ambidextrous.
Yes.
I can't even read today. Akela says, stay safe and don't have a good day. Have a great day.
That's right.
And as an ending comment, I thought that Mr. Moose Official TV says 65% of drivers should not have been given their license.
At least.
I'd have to agree.
I think that's the truest thing said today. Oh, let's see here. We lost him again. what do we have here? Oh, although late to the party, Evandro came in. So just a shout out to Evandro, who's, although I pressed the button, it's not coming on screen. Here's actually, we'll close with his question because he goes and takes the answers to these questions and makes videos. How do I report a driver who is driving dangerously somewhere? Can I send videos from my dash cam to the police? Does this serve as proof? It's a fantastic question. So first off, if you have a driving complaint in your neighborhood where just people are just being unsafe in this particular area, you can make that report at tps.ca. If you have a particular vehicle that was doing something, you can make also a report there online, and you can send us a link to video, either a Dropbox or a YouTube or whatnot. Does it serve as proof? It would have to be able to identify not only the driver, the date, the time, the location. It is difficult for us to lay charges based on information provided by a third party under the Highway Traffic Act. Is it better than nothing? Will it help us build a case? Will it start a conversation and observations? Maybe. So it's certainly worth doing. TPS.ca and whatever police service that area you're in under their jurisdiction. Yeah, I'm losing my air. You can absolutely. Well, I should say you can't. Most police services have the ability to do that, and you can also likely contact them and get contact information to share it. So with that, I think we should probably say goodbye because otherwise we'll just keep going till tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian, thanks for dropping in. It was great to see you. It's
My
been
pleasure.
A while since we've done this, and
yes.
I look forward to seeing your post tomorrow with your new episode.
Yeah.
To all the folks who asked questions that didn't get answers, my apologies. We'll be back tomorrow. Hopefully, the actual link will work, and we'll see our TikTok stuff on screen again. Today it didn't work. Every day is a different day. And what else can I tell you? Tomorrow, Jerry Agar show. That's what we're supposed to be doing around 10:30. He'll pop into the show for a 10-minute segment where we answer traffic and police questions on the Jerry Agar show and TikTok and YouTube and all the places simultaneously.
That's very cool.
Yeah, we do that kind of stuff. Zoomer might get technology once, then we'll be able to.
Well, yeah, one of these days.
One of these days.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, listen, Brian, we'll catch you later. And to everybody else, here is the outro. We'll play the song.
Take care, Brian.
Have a great day, guys.
Take it easy.
Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow. Watch for pedestrians, look out for bikes, and don't drive like a jerk that no one likes. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Put down your cell phone, nobody needs you to text and drive on the DVP. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Stop at stop signs, look both ways, then go. Seatbelt, save your life indeed, and watch your driving. Don't speed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely is the way to go. Don't drink and drive or smoke some weed, because you might go to jail and not get freed. Yellow light, red light, green light, go. Driving safely helps the traffic flow.
Too. All right, it's really that time to say goodbye, even though I totally ignored Michael VLZ on Instagram and Saba NDR. But we'll get to that stuff. I'm going to screen grab it. We'll talk about it tomorrow. Have a great day.